Please could you stop? This is a video about the brand new Parannoul album, Sky 100. Okay, so Parannoul is a shoegaze artist from Korea who's been gaining traction for the past few years. His flagship album, To See the Next Part of the Dream, came out in 2021, and that got a lot of attention from people talking about it on YouTube, websites like Rate Your Music, and he's been progressively getting more popular ever since then. Released an amazing live album last year, and obviously the next album has been anticipated ever since then. The two albums by Parannoul I just mentioned are absolutely beloved by myself, so hearing that a new Parannoul album's coming out this month on this day, it excited me because I'm a sucker for the shoegaze stuff. And Parannoul does it really, really well. He does it like nobody else. He does it in a very unique way. A lot of shoegaze music is either terribly depressing, like My Bloody Valentine's 2013 studio album, or just extremely reflective and somber, like Split by Lush. But Parannoul gives us this third option of incredibly bright, compressed, and digitally created shoegaze music that's not making you depressed, it's not putting you in the dumps, it's not making you think about every wrong choice you've ever made. It's extremely bright and cheery across all of his albums and creates this very fun-ish mood that just brings you joy rather than trying to drag you down with them, which I think is a very powerful thing for music like shoegaze to be able to do. And Parannoul's also really good at it. This album isn't exactly a reinvention of Parannoul's style from his past three albums, but it is just an evolution of his style into a new direction that is focusing a lot more on noise music, more heavily compressed stuff, more instruments. The volumes turned up a lot on this one from his previous albums. And it's just very interesting to hear him stray farther from what his predecessors did. The intro song, A Lot Can Happen, starts off with this one dreamy piano chord, and then it just gets right into the noisy, shoegazy mess with piano riffs all throughout it, and less guitar work than I expected to be on a song by him. And it's very cool, it's very different, it sounds very different from a lot of other songs I've heard by Parannoul and in the shoegaze genre in general. The inclusion of that one little piano chord and then delving into the rest of the song makes me visualize an old game startup screen or a PS2 startup screen with the game developer logo right there for a few seconds and then getting into the opening cutscene, because Parannoul's really dragging you into his world. It's not exactly a concept album, none of his albums are, but they're all, from what I can tell and what I've read of his lyrics translated, are just about him being utterly depressed, which makes sense for shoegaze. And he's just trying to represent that and trying to make things better by making this really exciting music. So I think it's powerful. They're just these little inclusions, these little things that he does throughout songs, just bring me in more. My favorite song on the album, Painless, starts off with some more low-key guitar strumming and then explodes into what you'd expect, a shoegazy, mushy mess of a song. And I love this song a lot. This is definitely my favorite on the album because of a lot of reasons, but one thing that I really especially liked about it is something that I haven't really ever picked up on in any shoegaze songs before, and that's the bass. The bass on this song has a very specific and particular sound that has never really stood out to me before in any other shoegaze song, because it sounds like the bass on Airbag by Radiohead, which is another song I love. The rest of the song continues switching between folk-esque interlude parts and practical normal shoegaze parts. Lights Off for Penance is the shortest song here that isn't an interlude on the album, and it's less of a shoegaze song and sounds more like an indie rock jam to me. It sounds very nice either way. It's got a lot going on. It has a very nice mellow bridge in the middle, and then the song ends with all the instruments glitching out and over each other, which kind of makes it hard to listen to a little bit, but I think the outro just works really well as a stylistic piece more than a musical thing. But I could argue that it drags it down a little bit. This glitchy outro, however, leads into the next song on the album, Evoke Me. This song, Evoke Me, is a 14-minute song, and he doesn't drop the ball for a second of it. It's basically the centerpiece of the album, comparable to what Pyramids was for Channel Orange by Frank Ocean. And it really takes the cake as the centerpiece of this album. The song starts off kind of slow and a bit ominous for a bit, and then obviously it rushes into an actual shoegaze song with heavy drumming and mushed together guitars and his vocals, which are buried a bit deeper in the mix. But this song is totally different from any other Parannoul song. It shows what he can do within the constraints of a studio song and studio album. There's also several different styles that Parannoul decides to go into throughout this 14-minute epic. There's obviously shoegaze parts to it, some ambient stuff like I mentioned, and actually some electronic bits throughout this 14-minute song. The only thing that even slightly disappoints me on this album is the song called No One Talks About It Anymore. That's less than 2 minutes in length and is just a very brief, what almost sounds like a jam session with whoever he plays with. And I just hear what could have been this epic, synthy, shoegaze jazz song that we'll never hear, at least not on this album. And I listen to that and just wish I could have had more, and whatever that would have been would have made this an 11 out of 10 album. But I'm not going to get hung up on it, because that could just be what's to come. That could be the next Parannoul album, perhaps. I am more than okay with what we actually did end up getting for this album, so I'm going to refrain from complaining at all. This album is straight up amazing, with all the different airy piano keys throughout it, the glistening guitars, the massive amounts of compression all over the album that just make it sound so unique, so different, so amazing. Just the vocals, the way they're mixed to perfection on this album, and how cinematic everything sounds. I genuinely wish somebody would hire Parannoul, this very small 23-year-old Korean artist, to do a film soundtrack. I think that would fit perfectly. Go listen to a song like Beautiful World. Totally cinematic, totally perfect. This album doesn't shy too far away from being perfect. I do think his flagship album, To See the Next Part of the Dream, is better once I start nitpicking on certain things. But this is still one of the most amazing albums to come out in the time I've been reviewing. And I'm just so happy it came out. I've just heard a 9 out of 10 album from Parannoul.